Hey, Topsters! I think it's really important sometimes to stop and really listen and understand someone else's perspective, especially if it's like a polar opposite, because we can always learn from each other. And that's part of the reason why I have so many different business owners with different business models to kind of show that you really can be successful in tailoring it to your specific needs and the way that you work and also your specific clientele. And this episode is absolutely no different. It is definitely one to listen to. I'm also going to start it a little differently. I'm going to start with the very end of the interview just because it's really funny to me. And I think it's just a really cool way to start this particular episode. So let's get into it.
Did you have fun?
I did. It was great. Did you have fun?
Yes, I've been called a character a little bit before.
Welcome to the Travel Agent Podcast. I'm your host, Aylin Blanco. I interview successful industry professionals and share my personal journey to becoming a travel agent. The show is for aspiring travel agents and travel professionals at every level. My mission is to uncover the universal keys to thrive in this business. Join me as I take a closer look into the life of a travel agent. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Travel Agent Podcast. Today, we have another special guest, and I'm going to let him introduce himself.
Hi, I'm David Eisen with Ondavo Travel and LuxRally Travel.
Let's just kind of start like I always start, and just kind of how did you get started in the travel industry?
So I was, it's funny, it started in an exotic car rally, and it was kind of I started working with exotic car rallies out of revenge for a wrong, which is kind of funny. It just happened, right? And basically, there was another rally that I didn't particularly like, so I went to go help and assist a up and coming rally with trying to get more cars and things like that. So an exotic car rally, a lot of people don't know, is basically a point-to-point tour. Think of it like from a travel agent side, a tour operator would do a 7-city tour, but instead of having a awful tour bus, you ride in a Ferrari. Usually that the owner of the car, is the one participating in the tour. So it's not like a setup thing where, if you don't own a car, you can join a rally. Typically, you have to own a car, so the barrier to entry is quite high because you not only have to pay the $5,000 or $10,000 for the tour, but you also have to pay the $300,000 for the car. So basically, there was a little bit of a scuffle, which I won't get into, with a large, very famous in the U.S. rally, I should say. And I went off to help another rally. So when I went off to help that other rally, they were doing 125 room blocks, and they were struggling with budget a lot of the time. So I said, if we can get the price of your hotels down, then you can use that money for other things. They were like, okay, let's try it. And we ended up, I ended up understanding the negotiation back and forth with these hotel group, with different hotels for group bookings. So we're looking at 30, 40 points discount rates. And, I learned it from a friend of mine named Alex, who actually works as our head concierge at LuxRally Travel now. So he worked in a hotel. He worked as a concierge manager and front office manager and a bunch of other positions as he worked his way up. What's it called? At the Mandarin Oriental, at Trump Hotels, at at one point he was an assistant to a very famous movie star you would all know, but I don't feel right disclosing. But he has a lot of history, and he helped me to understand that. And this was probably back in 2015. So around 2018, me and the gentleman at the other rally had I wouldn't call it a falling out. He'd probably call it a falling out, but I mean, it just was a dollars and cents type thing. And basically, We couldn't come to an agreement. So I decided, I really wanted to do something where I could control and have ultra luxury um, properties, built into our trip. And I said to myself, I mean, the problem I had was it, he was selling to a price sensitive market of Ferrari owners. And to me, that never made a lot of sense. I'm like, if you can afford a Ferrari, you should be able to afford a 5-star ultra luxury hotel. Like, it shouldn't have to be, one or the other. Um, so I was just not into that vibe. So I started my own rally and hired a butler and a concierge and people to follow around the rally. And the butler was somewhat newer to our product base. I mean, we've only had him for a year. And he works as a sub agent to me the rest of the year. But um, you know, we ended up building out this ultra luxury rally. I mean, you want to bring your dog on a rally, your dog will ride in the back of a Cadillac and, be fed all day and, get steak at night or whatever you like your dog to be fed. And, that will be we always like to joke that a dog on our rally gets treated better than a client on any other rally. So, we work really hard to have that kind of ultra luxury reputation. So one day, I was booking and, I got this, I was getting these questions from clients like, hey, where should I book? You always pick these great hotels. Oh, you should go here. Oh, you should go there. And at some point it occurred to me, if I'm recommending this stuff all day, why don't I just become a travel agent? It's a natural fit. It'll naturally make me money. So I became a travel agent. And, from there on out, it was, it started off really small. I mean, it wasn't the first year. I know I didn't clear 6 figures. I mean, it was probably 30, 40 something. I mean, nothing crazy. I would get, a $2,000 booking and be like, hooray. And that's how we all start, right? And you're just like, that's cool, like making side money, a couple grand a month here or there, not bad. And then, 2020 hit during COVID, and that's really where I was starting to take off. I mean, we were starting to get to 5-figure sums each month, which is real career money kind of thing. And I was like, okay, that's cool. And then COVID struck and everything got canceled for 2 months. So, I mean, it occurred to me that really who you want is, at least during COVID, and it's about being like malleable to a market. If you look at the people that are struggling versus the people that are successful, the people that are successful pretty much have Republican clients that don't engage in COVID. So you're going to struggle if your clientele has a basic opposition to, or fright or emotional response to COVID-19 and their fears about it. Versus if you have a group of people that have no fears about it and are borderline in denial about its existence. So the question is do you know how to cater to those people? And I mean, I'll be honest, back in 2016, I did a lot with in politics. Going back even further, I'm on a membership committee at the National Republican Club. And, I knew that clientele, right? I knew it well. I know what types of people are like. I mean, I had people start to travel in June, asking me where they could go internationally. And the biggest conflict I had was telling a client that no, they couldn't go to India. No, they really, really couldn't go to India. The borders are closed. He's like, but I want to go. And that was the biggest conflict I was dealing with over COVID, right? We had the clientele that just did not respond to it and, didn't have a care about all of this, like scare stuff or whatever. I mean, even with Delta variant, I know a lot of agents, I watch them on the chats go, oh my God, I'm down to, I had to cancel all of my bookings. And I'm like, I don't see that, right? I just don't see them canceling all their bookings. I don't see this problem because all it takes is CNN saying for 10 seconds, oh, we're there's this Delta variant, and all of a sudden half the country goes into fright and half the country doesn't. So no matter what side of the aisle you're on, that is the realistic nature of it, right? They were trying to go to Greece, and I'm like, you can't, you should have never booked this, and I'm like, had I known, I would have told you, save your time, save your money, save the trying to get out of the non-refundable whatever, because you need to wait to go to Europe. And it's just not your time. This is for people that want to get away, don't care about the risk, and have accepted it. I mean, it's the same thing even with cruises. You look at cruises and you say, who's going on cruises? Well, you have to be pretty much not afraid of COVID to go on a cruise, right? Like you can't, you can say you can say the cruise can say everyone has to be vaccinated. It can say everyone has to wear a mask. But let's be honest, there's going to be certain people that believe that will work and certain people that just don't care if it works. And the people that are really going are the people that just don't care, because nobody really believes that will stop you from getting COVID on a closed environment like a ship, right? So, it's an interesting way to prospect clients, but it seems to work for me. And I'm not in your face to clients about it, but at the same time, there are certain people where I feel the need to really, try and frankly dissuade them from booking anything, because I just know they're going to be unreliable travelers. So it drives my cancellation rates down, but it also makes sure I don't waste time on people that can't actually travel. It's funny. I've had agents that I've spoken to or worked with. I have some agents that do my collections from hotels when they get behind and things like that, and they always go, I'm slow. I go, well, who are you targeting? And almost every time I hear I'm slow, it's because their target market, they live in somewhere like a California or a New Mexico or somewhere where their surrounding community is very afraid of COVID, right? Or they're older, and like I know an older lady in New Mexico, an older lady in California that are both selling travel but are afraid to travel themselves, right? So how can you tell somebody it's safe, right? Or anything like that when your culture is not, you know what I mean? It doesn't feel that it's safe. You don't feel that it's safe. So it's hard to sell something you don't believe in. Now, I mean, I got COVID already. I'm vaccinated, right? And frankly, if I get COVID again, that's fine too. I mean, not optimally, but if it happens, it happens, right? And that's what I tell all of my clients. It's you understand that if you're older, if you're at risk, if there's other things going on, then you should make your own decision. I had somebody say to me, do you think I want to go on a cruise? Would you book your mother a cruise? And I said, well, my mother would go on a cruise no matter what, regardless of COVID. And the only thing holding her back is that she's unvaccinated. Now, I don't control my mother's decision making. My mother would be the one to tell you if she's going on a cruise or not, right? So would I say to you, yes, I book her on a cruise? Well, the simple answer is, of course I would, right? But that's at her request, just like it has to be at your request. What you're comfortable with is what you're comfortable with. So part of selling during COVID is literally persuading people not to go on vacation, not to go anywhere. And that seems to have worked for me. And I pick up very conservative clients that, are very honest with me. I mean, our biggest problem is finding places a lot of them can go because they're unvaccinated, for whatever reason. And, and there's, becoming more and more limited of a world they can go to. But, generally I saw a lot of Mexico this year. In previous years, I wouldn't have. I know a lot about the US, a lot about driving. I sell, of course, a ton of Trump hotels. So, when Virtuoso took them out of the program, that was very bothersome to me because at the end of the day, I was selling them. I know a lot of people that are selling them because there's a certain demographic that visits them. And I think as travel agents, it's not that we should ever say I only sell to conservatives or I only sell to Republicans or I only sell to liberals or whatever. I think we should sell all kinds of travel, but I think we should sell travel honestly, right? If a client is, like I saw a trip, right? And it's going to Antarctica and they fly you on a private jet to Antarctica to see the penguins. Okay. Then they have all this environmental stuff on their website. Well, you can't really have both, right? You can't fly in somewhere on a private jet and then tell everybody, oh, yes, we're here to save the environment, right? Now, at the same time, you look at somewhere like a One Hotel South Beach. They really, they don't allow people to have plastic water bottles. They, have all this sustainability stuff. That the floors are made of sustainability, whatever, right? That is something that when somebody's going to Miami and I know they are, a leftist, I will say, hey, this is a great hotel for you. It has, recyclable water bottles and a yoga studio and everything else. So you sell to people's emotions and what they want, right? To Antarctica, I said, I have one client that's obsessed with plastic straws. I, said to him, I'm like, hey, look, you could take your plastic straw if you're getting off your private jet and take a photo in front of the penguins. You'll love it. And you know what? He wanted to go on the trip, and people ask me, what's your secret? I go, just being honest, right? Don't try and say you're this or that when you're not, right? And I think that's the biggest thing is that people are afraid to be honest or are selling the wrong thing to the wrong person, right? And people, you you know, you just, especially in this day and age, with everything kind of relatively political, right? This is, you know, where you want people to feel comfortable where they're going, right? You don't want them getting chased away out of a smoking zone because they're smokers. You don't want them, getting yelled out by a hotel. Um, and you don't want the person going there and feeling uncomfortable too. There are, people that go to a hotel and feel uncomfortable for other reasons, right? So each hotel has its own brand and its own market, right? You don't want to send, it's funny. I sell Trump Waikiki all the time, right? And I sell it mostly, right, to people from California that are likely leftists but feel safe going to Hawaii because of all the restrictions. Okay. Why do they choose the Trump Waikiki? Because I say, well, the Sheraton across the street is $800 a night, or you can have this beautiful suite at the Ford's 5-star Trump for $800 a night. And they always go, my wife is going to kill me, or my husband is going to kill me, but that looks really nice, right? So they know going into it, right, what they're doing. And there are some people that say, absolutely not, never, right? And then we just move on to the Sheraton Waikiki because it'll make them happy, right? But they know that at least I offered it to them, right? And explained what it was and explained the advantages and disadvantages, at least to them, right? I know you probably don't like Trump, but this deal is really good. So politics is just one example of that too, right? There's other things that go into a hotel. Do they have butler service? Will they close off the road for their cars? Is there this or that, especially in the luxury space? And, there's also just sometimes no decision making really. It's just, does this location, does it match your budget? And, does it do everything you need it to? And that's how I really got into it. That's how I think I've been successful at it. So, this is being, once again, honest, right? It might not be what everybody wants to hear. There's probably half the people have already shut this off and said, I hate this guy, right? And that's okay. But the people that do keep it on and listen and say, how can I be more honest as an agent? I think will be more successful. And to look at your client base and say, what do they want to hear? Do they want to hear about the, glass bottles and no plastics? Or are they screaming about a paper straw, right? which one is your client, and then accept that in order for them to like you and want to do more business with you, they want to know that you know what they value.
Honest sales is the best sales. And this like directly goes about when you start a business, figuring out with your own personal values and your culture for your business, because that speaks volumes and that's how people are going to be attracted to you. And I love how honest you are. But my question is, since you are kind of sending people who aren't necessarily scared of COVID, how do you protect yourself and your business in the event something happens?
Well, I mean, that's what insurance is for. And also, I mean, when I get asked the question, could I get COVID on this trip? The answer is yes. I mean, I I, I don't know, what else to say to people. Can you get COVID in your house? The answer is yes. Do you sue your apartment building if you get COVID in your house? The answer is no. So you're making an individual decision on, do I get COVID or do I not? Right. And do I do something that could be perceived as a higher risk or a lower risk? And that's really on you, right? Like I'm not forcing anybody to take a vacation. I'm not their employer that says you have to go to Mexico tomorrow, right? They know COVID is happening, and I think that's something as travel agents, you know, we just have to accept that COVID is happening, right? And there's people that want to travel and don't, and they're taking their risk. And I'm not telling anybody medical facts or whether they should medically travel. I'm not a doctor. I don't know if you get COVID, if you'll die or not, right? I don't know if it'll be like me, where it felt like hangover symptoms, or you'll be on a ventilator. That's not my decision to make, right? That's your decision to make. Fully understanding the risk of travel, right? Or not travel. I got COVID in my house. So, I mean, it had nothing to do with traveling and got it in my house. So here we are. I probably was better off going to Mexico. So who knows, right? Um,
So how are you handling the influx of clients? You like your onboarding or your systems? Like what does that kind of look like since it kind of ramped up pretty quickly over COVID?
um, I mean, I use Client Base, which is issued out of my host agency on Davo. Um, I keep an Excel file with everything that's paid and unpaid, and use filters in it. But it's pretty straightforward. And then I look at who's traveling each day. I sort it by arrival date, and then look at who's traveling now and where they're traveling, and reach out to them. And my real key to keeping everything organized, though, is not really keeping it organized, but just handling everything at the time that it's occurring. So somebody says, I need a late check-in at this hotel, 12 p.m. or an early check-in, right, at 12 p.m. instead of 3. Instead of waiting and putting out a to-do list, while I'm on the phone with them or get the text, I just go out and send an email, to the BDM or whoever and say, I need a early check-in, right? And then every day I go back through my schedule, right? Or every week, right? And go back and look through my messages to make sure I didn't miss anything, right? And then follow up with that person if they haven't responded or whatever. But usually I'll get a response back in half an hour or an hour, right? And then I just send it off to the client. You're all set, and then forget about it, right? Until it needs to be referenced again. Hotels are where I'm not one of those people that calls a hotel 4 times to reconfirm the same thing that I reconfirmed 2 minutes ago. I just don't have the time for all that. Yeah, I mean, generally that's how I keep organized.
I love like the straightforward, honest, simple business. I think that model gets overlooked a lot. I think that a lot of travel agents make it more complicated than it needs to be. And I'm very impressed by your, not necessarily a pivot, but I'm impressed by how you decided to work your business over the pandemic, because you are absolutely right. There are people who are either doing really, really well or they're not. And I mean, obviously some of it is most likely political, but also I think it's just, we all typically find ourselves on one side or the other of different issues. And you found the side that is ready to go.
Yep. I mean, it's fun, being able to still do everything and, have people interested in travel. I think it's important.
So is there
Um,
anything that you have going on like that's coming up that's really, I mean, outside of the article, like what do you have going on that's really exciting coming up in the future?
so we have an exotic car rally in October. Um, it's pretty close to sold out. It's going in and out as where people are adjusting, and there's a couple people that are scared of COVID on the rally, but we only have like 2 of them, so it's okay. But basically, we it's called we have that coming up. We just have day-to-day sales. I mean, it's how much time can I dedicate? I mean, today I did, a very large trip to Dubai for next week. And, our September, October, November was looking a little slow as it is for a lot of agents, especially now with no corporate travel. But it actually seems this week has started to fill it in quite nicely. And, it should actually be a little bit better than the last quarter. So, right when you think the going gets tough, it seems like it kind of just comes back up again. And I guess, we were in our August going, things are a little slow, but I suppose I'm just learning my schedule of my clients to, when it seems like September, October, November has been a lot of bookings for only a couple of days from now. So they'll book for the 5th, for the 6th, of September, for the 10th of September. I've seen a ton of traffic for the next 3 weeks over the last 2 days. So, I mean, moving forward, I think that's the only thing that is, maybe a side effect of the Delta variant, but I don't know. I don't know if people are just waiting because, like there's a guy I know that wants to book a trip to Paris, and I know he's going unless his meeting gets canceled. And I think his biggest fear is his meeting getting canceled rather than him going. And the discussion we had yesterday was, if my meeting gets canceled, you think they're going to shut down all of Paris? To which I responded with, or, France, to which I responded with, probably not, but you never know, right? They might make a quarantine or not, but he has his vax card, so at least he's in a little better position than most. And, I mean, this trip's in 12 days. So he could end up, he's a business class, nonstop flyer, full fare, if he has to kind of guy. So in a way, the waiting might actually end up making me more, because obviously the higher the airline fare, the larger the commission. And I can say that on his program, and if he listened to it, he'd probably laugh, because I've told him this about 8 times in the last 2 weeks. And, I'm just being honest. He goes, what happens if I wait? I go, I love it when you wait. I'll tell clients, can I wait a day? Sure. Why? Well, when the price goes up 20 to 30% or 50% because you waited, well, then I make another 20 to 30% or more because of the classing unit in airfares, but or more. So, hey, wait all you like. I'd love for you to book the day before. And, a lot of times that drives people to give me their credit card right then and there. They're like, okay, I mean, he's being honest. I'm like, I don't set the prices of these hotels, right? If you want to wait till the last minute, or you want to check with this person or that person, that's fine. I'm just going to give you a new price if there's a new price, and I'm going to make more, or sometimes less, but most of the time it's more. So, it's one of those things where I'm just honest all the way through. And, I think that gives comfort to a lot of people.
Do you charge a fee?
No, I hate service fees. I hate the idea of service fees. The only time I charge a service fee is if it's just a domestic airline ticket booking, in which case I tell them, go on Google, you can do it yourself. There's no reason to have me doing this unless you want somebody that can fix your problems without calling a 1-800 number, in which case I charge $25 just to cover the time that it takes to do it and the fee that comes from my host agency. But I hate service fees. Anyone that's charging a service fee, I think is an idiot. I'll be
I
honest.
love your perspective.
Because if you're charging a service fee, that means your prospecting sucks, right? Like just being honest, you just don't know how to find good clients. And that means you have to push away even more of your clients instead of just creating good experiences for them that create shareable moments with their friends, right? So you're looking to share moments with, people are looking to share moments with their friends. And they're like, I paid $250 for somebody to plan an all-inclusive. How long does it take you to quote the one of, 100 all-inclusives? And then if you just ask their dates, their budget, their, basic qualifying questions, right? Usually it's down to 5 resorts. And if you book enough volume, you won't have to spend all that time telling them which resort they'll like. You just say, well, these 2 resorts are good at this. These 2 resorts are good at this. And this resort's good at this. And here are the prices. And then within 5 minutes, you can make, a $500, $700, $800 commissionable booking, or even a $300 one, or whatever it is that's relative, to you, right? So you can make a few $100s, right? But in minutes, if you're doing enough volume. So I'm not really concerned, right, with service fees because, at the end of the day, how long does it actually take me to quote somebody something? Seconds, right? It takes me seconds. And if my reputation isn't built up enough where they can see the value in a natural sense of having a travel agent, I get the question all the time, should I go with Amex? I'm like, look, if you want anonymous service and just like the convenience of booking online, and when the hotel stinks, you spend 40 minutes on hold with American Express to fix it, I'm sure they'll get you like a refund for a night or whatever, or you can go hunt down the manager in the hotel yourself, but hey, if your time is that valueless where you're like, hey, this is worth an hour or 2 of my time to get this, compensation or get the problem fixed in the first place, so you don't even have to have compensation, right? If you make, less than $50 or $100 an hour, then I get it. It makes sense to go duke it out. But if not, then ask yourself, do you really want to spend an hour or 2 on the phone with American Express when your room's messed up and then it's too late to change it or whatever, versus me who can just call in and get your room changed in 30 seconds and you just go down to the desk, move your stuff, and you're done. Probably still give you something for free anyway because you were inconvenienced, or spend an hour or 2. It doesn't matter to me. Go ahead and book with them. I'm not crawling and groveling for, your 450-hour a night booking. You don't see the value, you don't see the value. And that's why I don't charge any service fees. It's easy to show people value if you're good at service, you're good at prospecting, and you shouldn't have to charge a service fee. I get tips as service fees. I've had people literally force money upon me, right? And it's just the easiest way to accept it, right? I have made a couple $1,000s or more off of this year, but it makes up such a small percentage of what I do. Service fees are the devil. They're horrible. Why would somebody pay you more for the same thing? It's stupid.
And that is why I love having a diverse group of travel professionals on the show, because everybody's got a different business model that works for them. And obviously, you were doing very, very well. And so, regardless of what your stance is, it's always good to kind of just hear someone else out and see what they're doing, because I've learned a lot from this call, and maybe changing a couple of things in my own business just because some of the things kind of hit home. So I appreciate you taking the time to speak with me today and being on the podcast. And I look forward to kind of watching your journey and see how you are next summer, because I think that you're just really going to grow and be even more amazing than you already are now.
Well, thank you, I guess. Amazing is just, I sell travel, but sure.
Hey, selling travel isn't for the faint of heart. Like it's not the easiest
fun.
job in the world.
It's fun though. There's worse jobs in the world.
Absolutely.
I'll tell you. But thank you.
Thank you for joining the Travel Agent Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. Visit thetravelagentpodcast.com for more information about today's episode and other travel agent resources. Be sure to tune in every Thursday for new episodes. Until next time, continue to build a travel business you love.